7 bone-chilling discoveries in the woods that will haunt you. We are in the heart of the shadowy woods, where the trees twisted like gnarled fingers against the pale moonlight. A group of friends stumbled across something that would chill them to their very cores. Wind whispered through the branches, carrying with it secrets long buried. Suddenly, there it was, a weathered sign, splintered and half obscured by creeping vines, that read, "No one ever leaves." Goosebumps prickled down their spines as they exchanged nervous glances. Was this just a silly prank? Or was it something more sinister? The woods were silent, except for the crunching leaves beneath their feet, and that thick, pregnant pause in the air. Then, they found it an abandoned cabin, shrouded in fog like a ghostly apparition. The door creaked open as if inviting them in, and a sense of dread washed over them. What might they find inside? Reports of missing hikers, strange rituals, and even whispers about an ancient curse echoed in their minds. Could those tales hold truth? As they entered, the walls seemed to close in, their breath quickening. Darkness cloaked the corners, making it hard to see, but a flickering candle on a dusty table caught their attention. Scrawled around its base were disturbing symbols, drawn in what looked like dried blood. A cold chill gripped their hearts, and the hairs on the back of their necks stood erect. What were these markings? Who else had been here? The anxiety in the air thickened like fog rolling in, trapping them in a haze of fear. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Just as they were about to turn back, the floorboards creaked ominously behind them. A guttural sound, like a low growl, echoed through the room. Panic surged through their veins. They spun around, eyes wide, minds racing. Was someone else here with them? The very air seemed to vibrate with the energy of something dark and powerful, something watching them from the shadows. Their hearts raced, pounding against their rib cages like drums in a war. Suddenly, a chilling shriek sliced through the tension, freezing them in place. What was out there? What awaited them in the dark corners of the woods? The answers felt maddeningly close, yet impossibly out of reach. With every heartbeat, the forest grew closer, more alive, begging them to discover its secrets or perhaps to join its long-lost souls. Would they dare to uncover the truth, or would fear drive them away forever? The air grew heavy, thick with fear as they stood frozen in place, hearts thundering. Their breaths echoed in the silence, sharp and loud, each one a reminder of the dread swirling around them. The sound that had pierced the stillness, a shriek, had faded, leaving an unsettling quiet in its wake. But in that quiet, the low growl resurfaced, a deep rumble that crawled under their skin. "Did you hear that?" Sarah whispered, her voice trembling. "Yeah. I did," Mark replied, his eyes darting around the dim cabin, searching the shadows for whatever might be lurking there. It felt as if the darkness had eyes, countless eyes tracking their every move. The flickering candle cast ghostly shadows against the walls, twisting the symbols into grotesque shapes. A chill swept through the room, unlike anything they had experienced before. "I think we should go, now," Emma suggested, her voice barely above a whisper. But there was a hesitance in her suggestion, as if they all knew that leaving may not be easy. The sign outside echoed in their minds, its cruel warning embedding itself deeper into their consciousness. "No one ever leaves." Suddenly, the cabin door slammed shut, shaking the wooden frame. The sound was like thunder, reverberating in their bones. They whirled around to face the entrance, eyes wide with terror. A dark figure emerged from the corner, a silhouette etched against the faint light, its edges blurred as if it were part of the shadows themselves. "Who is there?" Mark shouted, trying to sound brave, but the quiver in his voice betrayed him. The figure didn't respond verbally. Instead, it shifted, almost gliding towards them, its movements unnatural, like it was part of the very darkness wrapping around the cabin. No words, just a low guttural sound, this time accompanied by an unmistakable hiss that made goosebumps ripple across their skin. The air crackled with anger as the shadows thickened, creating a wall of darkness in front of them. "Back away," shouted Sarah, taking a step toward the others, who instinctively grouped closer together. They made a dash toward the window, but the figure moved faster. It was quick, far too quick for a being of the woods. A horrifying realization hit them like a ton of bricks: they were trapped. "Get the candle!" Emma cried, and Mark scrambled for it, his hands shaking as he reached for the flickering flame. The symbols on the table seemed to pulsate, alive in their fear, each mark a warning, each line a hint of what was to come. As he lifted the candle with a steadying breath, the shadows recoiled, revealing something in the corner that made their blood run cold: a collection of photographs pinned to the wall. Faces of hikers missing for years stared back at them, eyes wide with panic. Their frozen smiles hid the truth: they were never found. "What is this?" Emma gasped, the candle nearly slipping through her fingers as she leaned closer for a better look. And then it hit them like a shockwave: they weren't the first to stumble here. The figure lunged forward. They screamed as it tore through the cabin, madness in its eyes, and just as they turned to flee, the walls groaned, echoing their terror. But before they could make it to the door, the ground beneath their feet trembled. In that split moment, the floor gave way. Blackness opened up, swallowing them down into a deep abyss, a place where screams echoed endlessly and no light existed. The last thought that passed through their minds was a chilling question: was it the end or merely a beginning? What awaited them below? They could only hope they would escape the clutches of whatever haunted the depths of the woods, or would they find something worse than they had ever imagined? Emma gasped as she hit the ground, her body landing hard on unforgiving earth. The darkness around them was complete, wrapping them in a suffocating cocoon. A chill ran through her, tightening her chest and sending her heart racing. She tried to gather her thoughts, but panic clawed at her mind. "Are you all okay?" Mark's voice sliced through the void, shaky but alive. "Yeah, I think so," Sarah responded breathlessly, her voice barely a whisper in the overwhelming silence. "Emma?" Mark's voice called again, an edge of worry creeping in. "I'm here," she yelled back, trying to steady her breath. The pitch blackness left them blind, hearing only the faint rustle of something moving nearby. The air reeked of dampness and decay, each breath made her belly churn. "Maybe we can find a way out," Mark suggested, trying to keep hope alive. "We can't just sit here," Emma muttered, her pulse pounding in her ears. As they shimmied forward, the uneven ground shifted underfoot. Emma's foot slipped on wet earth, and she nearly lost her balance, but she reached out, grabbing Sarah. "Stay close." In the quiet, the low growl returned, vibrating deep within the ground. It slithered through the air like a predator stalking its prey. Emma stopped when the growling grew louder, an unnerving mix of guttural anger and tortured sorrow. It haunted the edges of the darkness, as if something was lurking just beyond their reach. "Guys, I don't like this," Sarah fretted, her voice trembling. "Let us keep moving," Mark urged, inching ahead, the flickering candle now a match against an ocean of nothingness. As they advanced, a faint glimmer of light broke through the black. Their steps quickened, hope igniting in their chests as they found themselves in a cavern. A strange, swirling mist hovered at ankle height, swirling around the silhouettes of stones that jutted from the ground like sharp teeth. "Look!" Sarah pointed toward the far wall, a series of shapes barely visible in the flickering light of the candle. The faint carvings looked ancient, lines and patterns twisting into a chaotic dance. "What do you think it means?" Emma asked, straining to see through the shadows. Mark stepped closer, the candle illuminating the symbols. "They're just like the ones from the cabin." His voice grew uneasy. "That can't be a good sign," Emma muttered, panic creeping back in as she realized the implications. The growling intensified, echoing off the cavern walls. The shadows began to thicken, twisting and stretching around them. Just then, the ground shook beneath their feet, knocking them off balance. "What the hell?" Mark shouted, trying to steady himself. From the wall, something stirred, a low whisper mixing with the growl, an almost human-like voice filled with agony. It resonated through the cave, deep and haunting. "Get away!" Emma screamed, her instincts urging her to flee. Suddenly, the mist surged forward, enveloping them in a cold embrace, squeezing tighter as it pulled them toward the wall. The faces they had seen in the photographs flashed in their minds, screaming, terrified faces that begged for release. What did they want? Were these the lost souls they had seen? In a frantic attempt to break free, they all lunged toward the opposite side of the cavern, but the mist held fast. The pressure around them throbbed like a heartbeat, each pulse radiating fear deeper into their souls. Then Emma caught sight of something glinting in the dark, something sharp and silver hidden among the stones. It could be their chance. Over there. The wall. She pointed, her heart racing with a flicker of hope. Just then, another bone-chilling growl erupted, louder and more ferocious than before, drowning out their thoughts. Would they find salvation behind the stones or surrender to the darkness that craved them? The lingering question hung heavy, their fate teetering on the edge of despair. They could feel the walls closing in. The mist pulled tighter, and Emma's heart pounded like a war drum in her chest. "We have to go now," she urged, the chill of the fog biting at her skin. They pushed forward, their movements frantic as they clawed toward the sharp stones gleaming in the half-light. The growl reverberated again, primal and furious, shaking the earth beneath them. Focusing on the glint, Emma urged her friends. "Just a little farther." Mark stumbled but quickly steadied himself. "I don't know how much longer we can hold out." With every step they took, a suffocating weight pressed down upon them, as if the very air was conspiring with the darkness to keep them trapped. Sarah, her breath shallow, glanced back. "It's getting closer." In that moment, a sudden noise split the suffocating silence. Something rumbled deep within the wall, shifting, scraping against the stone. Emma froze. Was it the growl? Or something else? The wall seemed to breathe along with the darkness. "Emma! Now!" Mark's voice broke the spell, and she lunged, reaching out for the silver object just within her grasp. It felt cold and smooth against her skin. "Got it!" she shouted. "No. We need to move." Sarah whimpered, eyes darting back to the darkness that was clawing closer. As they turned, the mist thickened, swirling around them like angry spirits. Emma waved the object, catching the glimmer of the candlelight. It was a dagger, ancient and beautifully wrought, but the runes etched into its blade, the same symbols they had seen on the wall, filled her with dread. "Be careful with that," Mark yelled, his voice fusing with the growl that echoed sharply in the cavern. "We shouldn't be here," Emma muttered, clutching the dagger like a lifeline. "We have to break free." With a collective shout, they surged forward, the dagger aimed at the mist that ensnared them. But the entity had its own defenses. A low, rumbling voice erupted from the shadows, words indistinguishable but dripping with malice and despair. The cavern echoed back their terror as the dark tightened its hold. Mark pushed ahead, arms flailing. "This way." He stomped an uncertain path forward, flicking glances over his shoulder. The moment felt like eternity, shadows morphed, like twisted faces still screaming for help, crying out for souls to join them. Panic surged again, stronger this time as Emma remembered the pictures. "The ones at the cabin, are they coming for us?" "Shut up. Just keep moving." Sarah screamed, her face pale, eyes wide with fear. They pressed on, the mist undulating like waves hungry to swallow them whole. Suddenly, the mist quivered, as if in recognition of the dagger. The growl transformed into a cry, a chorus of hundreds overlapping, each voice slick with anguish. Emma felt something pull at her. It was intense, alive. She was drawn back, as if the dagger was a beacon. Was it summoning them, or warning them? Get away from Mark's shout was cut short as the ground heaved violently beneath them. Emma stumbled, barely catching herself. The dagger felt heavier, its presence shifting from a source of hope to something sinister. Everyone, hold on to each other. With a swift motion, they huddled tight, and Emma brandished the dagger at the encroaching fog. Let us go. She cried, surprising even herself with the intensity of her voice. Instantly, the growling stopped, a palpable silence wrapping around them. The mist paused, as if it were considering her words. But in that stillness, something cracked, a sharp sound slicing through the air like glass shattering. The ground trembled again, pulling at their feet. And then it happened, the shadows pulled back, retreating with a feral hiss, exposing more symbols on the wall glowing faintly with an eerily inviting light. What now? Sarah panted, eyes darting to the newly revealed designs that seemed to pulse with life. With no time to waste, Emma felt a deep unease bubbling inside her. We have to decide. Are we fighting it or uncovering more secrets? The question hung in the air, fraught with uncertainty. And in that shaky moment of possibilities, the cavern trembled again, as if answering. With a distinct yet chilling warning. Was this a gateway to uncover more horrors or an escape from their suffocating fate? The cavern pulsated with an ominous energy, the faint glow of the runes casting eerie shadows that danced along the walls. Emma felt the dagger vibrate with an almost living pulse, its connection to the cavern undeniable. What if those symbols mean something? Sarah said, her voice cracking. The fear in her eyes matched the panic tightening Emma's chest. Emma stepped closer to the wall, instinctively tracing the symbols with her fingers. Each mark thrummed beneath her touch, sending shivers up her spine. They could be a map or a spell. Something to help. Mark shook his head, clearly agitated. We don't have time for this. That thing is coming back. The growling resumed close, sinister. They could feel the vibrations in the ground beneath their feet, threatening to split open beneath the weight of dark anger. Emma turned back to her friends, conflict roiling in her. We need to understand what we're dealing with. If we just run, it won't end well. What are you saying? Mark shot back, panic-laced venom in his voice. We could die here. We need to escape. I agree, Sarah gasped, eyes darting. But what if this dagger can help us? What if enough? Emma cut in sharply. We need to make a choice. Now. The dagger pulsed more fiercely in her grip, almost as if sensing her turmoil. Emma's mind raced with images of the cabin, the faces in the pictures, their silent screams echoing in her ears. Would knowing more mean a fatal end, or was it the only path to save them? Suddenly, a cracking sound split through the fog again, shaking the ground violently. The shadows twisted with rage, and an unearthly wail erupted from the depths of the mist. It clawed toward them, larger than ever, hungry for their fear and despair. Emma! Do something! Mark shouted, panic radiating off him. Taking a deep breath, she raised the dagger high. I will not let you take us. She called out to the entity filling the mist, defiance trembling in her voice. The air crackled with electricity, the weight of the shadows pressed closer, and she felt her courage waning. The entity responded with an unholy roar, and the shadows writhed in rage. For a moment, the cavern felt alive, as if the darkness itself was alive fighting back against her challenge. Emma closed her eyes, pouring every ounce of her will into the dagger. Reveal your truth. She demanded. In response, the cavern quaked, and a blinding light exploded from the runes on the wall, flooding the room. Shadows danced madly, writhing against the light's intensity. Emma felt it, a surge of power coursing through her, igniting her senses. Whoa! Sarah gasped, eyes wide with wonder and sheer terror. Mark shielded his eyes, fear etched in every line of his face. What is happening? A vision flashed before Emma, grotesque figures wrapped in shadows, their mouths agape in silent screams, a twisted carnival of despair. She gasped, stumbling back. They weren't merely trapped. They were caught in a web of horrors, sacrifices from the past, beckoning for release. Emma! Mark shouted, grabbing her arm, pulling her out of the vision. What did you see? I don't know, but it's connected to this dagger. We have to free them. Too many questions flooded her mind, but urgency settled in. They could not stay here. We need to activate the symbols. Maybe they'll show us the way. With renewed determination, Emma dashed back to the glowing runes, heart racing. Mark held his breath beside her, releasing a shaky exhale. If we don't get out, but before he could finish, the ground quaked worse than before. The shadows retaliated, collapsing the space around them with a combined fury that made Emma's heart race. Now! She cried, pointing at the symbols, willing them to unravel the truth of the darkness. As they reached out to touch the runes, a sinister laugh echoed around them, slicing through the air with its chilling finality. Fools, you have no idea what you're unleashing. And in that moment, the cavern erupted into chaos, the shadows merging, howling with an anger threatening to engulf them all. What secrets lay beyond that darkness? And what would it reveal if they dared to push forward? The ground shifted violently beneath Emma's feet, throwing her off balance. She stumbled, gripping the dagger tightly, the weight of the moment crashing down around her. Dark tendrils snaked across the cavern floor, rising like fog, coiling around her ankles and pulling her down into the shadows. Keep your hands on the symbols. Sarah screamed, her voice ripping through the chaos. Emma struggled to focus. The runes pulsed, bright against the oppressive darkness, providing a flickering path through the chaos. Each heartbeat echoed like a warning drum. Mark's face was twisted in terror as he flailed, trying to free himself from the grasp of the encroaching shadows. Emma! Help! He kicked frantically while the darkness writhed, ever hungry for their fear. With a quick glance, Emma saw Sarah barely staying upright, one hand on the wall and the other thrumming with energy on the rune. We can't let it take us. We have to stay together. Emma shouted. The dagger pulsed, urging her forward as the shadows slithered in and out, teasing the corners of her vision. Drawing in a shaking breath, Emma lifted the dagger overhead again. Its light cut through the dark, illuminating the cavern's secrets. These symbols hold power. She yelled. We need to channel it. As if in response, the cavern swirled with light and shadow, and the symbols blazed brighter. Emma felt a strange connection to the energy surrounding her. It coursed through her veins, awakening something deeper, something primal. She dropped to her knees, thrusting the dagger into the ground. By the light of these runes, I command you. She shouted, pouring her will into the blade. The cavern trembled violently as the shadows shrieked, their sound belching bitter and cold like the wind on a winter night. The shadows pulled back momentarily, revealing a glimpse of the deeper recesses of the cavern. Huddled figures jutted out, their faces grotesque, eyes sunken and wide. They whispered in despair, mouths moving but silent, as if trapped in a glass box, forever echoing their pleas through the ages. What are they? Sarah whispered, her voice a mix of wonder and horror. Souls, bound to this place. Emma's voice quaked as she recognized that the dagger was more than a weapon, it was a key. But to what? Release them. Mark yelled, rage bubbling through his fear. We can't leave them. Just then, the cavern erupted in darkness again, swallowing the light whole. Emma's heart raced as she felt the shadows retreat, only to surge back, wild and furious. No. You won't take us. She screamed, swinging the dagger with all her might. The energy intensified, sparks flying, creating a whirlwind of light that shone against the walls, revealing more runes hidden in the darkness, a language lost to time. The figures twisted against the shadows, their silent screams morphing into something like a howl that resonated through the very stone. Emma! We have to work together. Sarah's voice broke through, breaking her concentration. Hearts pounding in unison, the three friends joined hands. As a team, they pressed their palms onto the symbols, unleashing a collective shockwave that rocked the cavern. The runes glimmered brighter than before, forming a conduit between them and the trapped souls. In that electrifying moment, a vision flooded Emma's mind, a massive gate swinging open, the anguished faces of countless spirits rushing toward her. They reached for her like they knew she could help, like she was their last hope. "Do it! Now!" Mark shouted, shaking Emma from her trance. They had to act before the darkness reclaimed them. With a fierce resolve, Emma jabbed the dagger into the floor one last time, determination blazing in her eyes. Let the light reclaim the lost. The runes burst with blinding energy, filling the cavern with their brilliance, illuminating everything. The walls pulsed as the energy engulfed them, shadows shrieking in protest as they were forced back. The darkness didn't retreat quietly, it lashed out, a storm of anguish and fury blanketing the space. Then, everything froze, within the deafening silence. Emma held her breath, waiting for the fallout. What had they unleashed? Suddenly, the ground heaved violently again, splitting wide. A geyser of energy shot up around them, and within its eye, a portal crackled to life, swirling with colors she couldn't identify. "This is it!" Emma shouted, fear intermingling with exhilaration. "We can save them. But we have to jump." Mark and Sarah exchanged horrified glances, uncertainty blazing in their eyes. "What if it's a trap?" Mark stammered. "But what if it's the only way to end this?" Emma countered, and as the shadows clawed at their heels, they faced the portal, that abyss of flaming light and darkness. Would they risk everything, stepping into the unknown, the perilous journey ahead? The moment teetered on the edge of fate, and then they leaped. The cavern erupted once more, sealing off their fate as they were whisked into the void, and the haunting laughter echoed behind them what awaited them on the other side. The moment they hit the ground, the world shifted around them like a tide. Emma braced herself, the impact jarring her senses. She rolled to her feet, heart racing, breath coming in tight gasps. Mark and Sarah landed beside her, disoriented but alive. They stood in a strange new realm, an ethereal landscape pulsating with energy. The air shimmered, casting distorted reflections of the towering trees that surrounded them. The sky swirled with colors never seen before, rich violets blended with deep golds and molten reds. "What is this place?" Sarah murmured, her eyes wide, scanning their unusual surroundings. "I don't know, but we need to keep moving," Emma replied, her voice firm. They had leaped into the unknown, and though fear gnawed at her, there was also an undeniable thrill in the air, an unpredictable potential simmering around them. Suddenly, a rustling noise broke the heavy stillness. Mark tensed, raising his hands instinctively, staring into the shadows between the trees. "What was that?" he whispered, eyes darting. Emma couldn't shake the feeling of being watched, eyes hidden amongst the foliage. "We need to find a way out of here," she said, trying to suppress the rising dread. They began walking deeper into the woods, the ground soft and springy beneath their feet. With each step, faint whispers echoed around them, unintelligible but haunting. Emma shivered, glancing back at the shifting shadows that seemed to retreat then advance, vibrant with inexplicable life. "Why does this feel so alive?" Mark asked, his voice barely more than a breath. Emma stopped, feeling a strange pull, a magnetic force tugging at her thoughts. What if these woods are alive? What if they hold the spirits we glimpsed in the cavern? The realization hung heavy in the air. They wandered further, the whispers growing louder until they formed echoes of anguish and hope, intertwining in a dissonant melody. The shadows danced around them like tangible fears, forming shapes that licked at the edges of their vision. "Emma!" Sarah's voice broke through the cacophony. "Look!" Ahead, a clearing opened up, illuminated by soft luminescence, revealing an old stone altar. Pale light emanated from intricate designs etched into its surface, old runes similar to what they had seen back in the cavern. The air around it buzzed, saturated with energy, and Emma felt the dagger at her hip hum with anticipation. "This has to mean something," Emma said, stepping toward the altar, mesmerized. "It's connected to the symbols." Mark and Sarah hesitated, each feeling the allure of the altar's light. A strange mix of fear and hope twisted in Emma's gut. A choice lay before them, and the weight was almost unbearable. "Do we dare?" Mark challenged, glancing at Sarah. "What if it's another trap?" "We didn't come this far to turn back now," Emma replied, steeling her resolve. "We need to find out what it wants." With a deep breath, they approached the altar, their hearts racing. The whispers crescendoed into a symphony of urgency, drowning out their doubts. Emma placed a hand atop the weathered stone. The energy surged through her, sending jolts of power, illuminating visions of lost souls reaching out, their eyes filled with longing. "Help us," echoed a voice, soft yet filled with a desperate urgency. Emma felt it chill her bones. "What do we do?" Sarah cried, panic creeping into her voice. Time seemed to freeze. Then, she understood. "We have to connect the energy from the dagger with the altar. We can release them." But shadows clawed at the edges of the clearing, thick and hungry, sensing the awakening of power. Emma's grip tightened around the dagger, its warmth pulsating against her palm. "Ready?" Emma squeezed their hands, the three forming a circle around the altar. "Yes," they all breathed, hearts aligned. As they focused, the shadows surged forward, threatening to consume them. They could feel the pressure mounting, darkness pressing against the light. "Channel the energy!" Emma screamed, raising the dagger high. The altar glowed fiercely. The moment split, time fracturing into pieces. They stood at the edge of a choice that could either save or doom them all. "What's on the other side?" Mark shouted above the din, fear lacing his voice. "I don't know," Emma cried, "but we have to find out." And just as the shadows struck at them, a blinding light erupted around them, sending a shockwave of energy through the clearing, weaving through the black, pushing it back. The world trembled. Then, there was silence. The shadows paused, as if held at bay by an unseen force. A heartbeat stretched into the void. But then, what lay before them began to tear apart. "What just happened?" Mark's voice quivered, the dagger vibrated, shaking in Emma's hand, and she realized it was no ordinary weapon. It was a bond with the voices. A key to the cosmic door stood open wide. "A path awaits," Emma whispered, stepping forward, daring to look into the heart of the light. What lay beyond that threshold? Would they step through and embrace the unknown again? With raw determination, they took a deep breath and took a leap of faith into the hazy brilliance. Yet, in the distance, shadows stirred again, restless and angry. What darkness followed them into this new world? The brightness swallowed them whole, a fierce light collapsing around their bodies and twisting the air into a dizzying swirl of colors. Emma felt a warmth shift through her, an unexpected comfort wrapping around her like a soft blanket. It was strange, soothing, yet filled with an unshakable undertone of danger. When the light finally receded, they found themselves in a vast expanse that felt both familiar and alien. They stood on a hillside, grasses swaying like whispers, shimmering in shades of silver and light blue. The sky appeared as if it were alive, pulsating with a vibrant dance of golden rays and streaks of turquoise. Where are we?" Mark breathed, glancing around, shock smacking across his features. Emma felt an unsettling knot tighten in her stomach, the exhilaration fading. I think we might be in another realm. But it doesn't feel hostile." "Not yet." Still, an eerie vibration lingered in the air, an electric buzz that made her skin crawl. With each step forward, the ground seemed to echo back their movements, as if responding to their very presence. Suddenly, a deep rumbling laugh echoed across the serene hills, shattering the moment. It wasn't organic, it was mechanical and distorted, sending chills racing down Emma's spine. "Foolish children, seeking what lies beyond," it taunted, the sound ricocheting off the hills, as if they were being watched. "Who's there?" Sarah shouted, fists clenched. Her voice quaked, the fear palpable. Emerging from the shadows was a cloaked figure, its silhouette almost blending with the iridescent landscape. Glowing eyes pierced through the darkness, a haunting yellow that shone with an unsettling intensity. As it stepped into the light, its features twisted into a chilling grin. "I am the warden of this realm," it declared, voice smooth like silk but sharp as glass. And you have entered a sanctum where life and death entwine. Emma fought to steady her breathing, adrenaline coursing. What do you want from us? We're not here to cause trouble. The warden laughed again, a sound that made the ground quiver. You hold the dagger, don't you? The key? You think you can mend the wounds of the lost souls? You're mistaken. Lost souls? Mark echoed, stepping closer to Emma. Yes. It spat, rage running through its serene facade. Their cries echo through time, and you shall join them if you fail. Behind them, the landscape darkened slightly, as shadows that had once seemed distant began to creep closer like a thick fog rolling in. Emma felt her heart race, squeezing her eyes shut for a moment, but the animal instinct for survival kicked in. We'll find a way, Emma said defiantly, pulling the dagger from her side. We came to help them. If we can access whatever power this dagger holds, we can do something. Power? The warden sneered, stepping forward. You understand nothing of this place. It demands a sacrifice. What are you willing to lose? The shadows writhed and surged forward, seemingly drawn by the moment's tension. Emma felt a shift in the air, an expectation that chilled her bones. But what if we don't sacrifice anyone? Sarah challenged, stepping between Emma and the ominous figure. What then? Is darkness all you know? A flicker of confusion crossed the wardeness' features before being overshadowed by a stormy fury. You will see. Choose wisely. With a wave of its hand, the grassy landscape transformed into a swirling abyss, splitting the earth beneath their feet. An echoing screech rang out from below, a cacophony of trapped souls clamoring for release. Emma's heart raced. Run! She yelled, grabbing Mark and Sarah's hands, pulling them away from the chasm that threatened to swallow them whole. They darted down the hillside, urgency propelling them forward. As they fled, the shadows pursued, hungry and relentless, the wardeness' laughter ringing in their ears. Behind them, the dagger vibrated violently, a warning pulsing through Emma's grip. We need to find shelter, something to barricade the darkness. We can't let it catch us. Yet, as they turned a bend, the vibrant landscape shifted again. Just ahead, towering stone monoliths emerged, covered in glowing runes that resonated with the dagger's energy. Was this the sanctuary they needed, or another trap designed by the warden? As they rushed toward the stones, the whispers of the lost souls filled the air, blending with their own frantic breaths. What awaited them within those stones? Would they find the answers they desperately sought, or succumb to the shadows chasing them into oblivion? One thing was certain, the warden's laughter faded into a haunting promise. This was only the beginning. The cold air felt sharp against Emma's skin as they raced toward the towering monoliths. The smooth, ancient stones rose high, casting dark shadows that danced against the vibrant sky, each rune pulsing like a heartbeat. The whispers grew louder, enveloping them in a cacophony of desperate cries. Stay close! Mark shouted, glancing nervously over his shoulder as the darkness edged closer, breathy and cold. The shadows shifted, twisting like serpents ready to strike. Emma's grip on the dagger tightened, feeling the pulse of its energy reverberate through her. As they reached the stones, Emma hesitated. An unsettling chill wrapped around her, an ominous warning thrumming in the air. What if this is just another trap? She wondered aloud, unease crawling into her mind. There's no time to think. Sarah urged, practically dragging her forward. We have to take a chance. They dove behind the nearest monolith, pressing their backs against the cool stone. Silence fell, a stark contrast to the chaos outside. It felt like a fragile cover, a thin barrier between them and the encroaching darkness. Suddenly, the dagger shone brighter, casting a warm light that pushed back the shadows. Emma stared at it, her heart racing with a mix of awe and fear. What are you doing? She whispered, unsure if she was talking to herself or the blade. The runes! Mark exclaimed, pointing at the swirling symbols on the stone. Maybe it means something. Emma stepped closer, examining the glowing markings. They pulsed in rhythm with the dagger, a language she couldn't understand yet felt deep within her bones. Each rune emulated a strange familiarity, igniting something in her memory. "It's like they're calling to me," she murmured, reaching out. As her fingers brushed the stone, a vision exploded in her mind. The landscape shifted into a swirling mist, filled with screaming faces, trapped and lost in an endless void. Their cries clawed at her heart, and she fell back, gasping. "We have to help them," Emma cried, the weight of their suffering settling deep in her chest. "Help who?" Sarah whispered, eyes wide with confusion. "The lost souls. They're here. They're tied to this place." Emma's voice trembled as she pieced the revelation together. "The warden feeds off their despair. That's why they cry out." Mark's brow knitted with worry. "But how do we help them without sacrificing ourselves?" "I don't know, but maybe the dagger is the key." Emma pointed it at the monolith, energy radiating from the blade like a beacon. "Maybe if we use its power wisely, we can release their souls and break the warden's hold." But before anyone could reply, the ground shook violently. The monoliths throbbed with energy, and the shadows, emboldened by the commotion, surged forward. The air crackled with tension, the very fabric of the realm vibrating in response to the dagger's awakening. "Hold on to each other," Emma yelled as the monoliths illuminated with a blinding brilliance. The energy built around them, swirling like a tempest, drawing the shadows in as they howled with fury. "Now!" Sarah shouted, and Emma thrust the dagger into the air, summoning the power within. "Trust the light." The dagger blazed with an intense radiance, the runes on the stones flaring up to match its brilliance. And then, a brilliant shockwave erupted, pushing back the darkness, revealing spectral figures rising from the shadows, lost souls taking form, their faces twisting with both agony and hope. As they reached out, a chilling voice broke into their thoughts, a hissing whisper reverberating all around. "You think you can undo what has been done? You will learn the price of meddling with fate." Emma's heart pounded violently. They had unleashed something far more powerful than they anticipated. Would they be able to complete the task ahead, or had they just sealed their own doom? "Stay strong," she shouted, clinging to Mark and Sarah as the fabric of reality threatened to unravel around them. The cries of the lost souls merged with the warden's laughter, intertwining in a chaotic symphony of dread and hope. What would they face next? The grip of fate tightened as shadows lunged once more at the trio, forcing them to confront their own fears. Did they truly have the strength to break the chains binding the souls, or would they become the next victims of the warden's cruel game? The energy in the air crackled as Emma, Mark, and Sarah stood united, hands locked tight around the dagger. The specters of the lost souls began to swirl around them, each face a tapestry of desperation, fear, and deep, unyielding longing for freedom. Emma could feel every pitiful cry resonating within her, igniting a fierce determination. This was their battle against the warden, against the darkness, and for the spirits trapped forever in the shadows. Together, Emma shouted, her voice rising above the chaos. "We can do this." As if fueled by her defiance, the dagger pulsed fiercely, shooting rays of light into the depths of the shadows. In one unified thrust, they raised the dagger high. The runes on the monoliths glowed brighter, signaling their awakening. "Release them," Emma cried, her heart racing. The shadows recoiled momentarily, as if the light held a powerful deterrent against their advance, but the warden's laughter echoed, deep and malevolent. "You think this is enough to save them? You are mistaken." With a wave of its arms, the warden summoned tendrils of darkness that surged forward like a storm. The friends huddled together, and Emma held the dagger steady, the blade reflecting a blinding radiance that seemed to stand as a bulwark against the encroaching nightmare. "You won't take us," she declared, and the warmth of the blade reassured her. It felt like a heartbeat, a living connection to the souls they sought to free. Suddenly, the shadows lunged, howling with rage as they clawed at the boundaries of light. Emma felt their icy fingers graze her skin, chilling her to the bone. Fear clawed at her heart, but it ignited more strength. "Now!" she yelled, thrusting the dagger down into the earth. A surge of light erupted from the blade, spreading across the ground like a ripple in water. The runes glowed fiercely, illuminating the clearing. Emma felt a powerful energy swell within her, intertwining with the essence of the lost souls swirling around them. Together, channel their energy through the dagger. Mark shouted, and with renewed purpose, they each endeavored to focus, drawing from the hopes and fears of the spirits absorbed in their plight. But something dark was still lurking in the background. As the dagger blared brighter, the shadows screamed, revealing twisted forms attempting to break through the light barrier. "Fools!" the warden screeched, rage filling its voice. "You cannot succeed. Sacrifice is the only path." Emma's thoughts flashed to everything they had witnessed: the screams of the past hikers, the agony of the lost souls, the weight of despair. But they wouldn't leave anyone behind. "We can break this curse without sacrificing ourselves," Emma shouted defiantly, determination surging through her veins. "We will earn their freedom in a different way." "Focus!" Sarah yelled, pulling from the magic of the dagger and the connections they had made within the realm. The aura of the friends intertwined like roots of an ancient tree, grounding and empowering them. The whispers amplified, spirits began to swirl around them, gathering their collective energy, forging into a force far greater than the shadows. "Let the light reclaim what is theirs," Emma bellowed, the weight of each word heavy with conviction. The dagger shone brightest yet as energy erupted like a supernova, breaking the grip of the darkness completely. Suddenly, the shadows wailed, a fearsome retreat echoing against the walls of the realm. "No!" the warden screeched, attempting to wrap its tendrils around them but failing as the cleansing light pushed through, dispersing the darkness bit by bit. One by one, the spirits began to dissolve into ethereal light freed from their torment. Emma watched, heart swelling, as each face transformed from agony to serenity, their mouths finally able to whisper their thanks as they shifted into the afterlife. The warden howled in pure frustration, its form shrinking as every lost soul returned to peace. Despair morphed into rage, clawing at the edges of its own existence. "You will regret this," it roared, its voice shaking. The very hills around them. "This is not over." But the light grew too bright, swallowing the warden's anger. Emma felt an overwhelming rush of happiness as the souls faded, their incomplete stories finally written in the stars. With a last blinding flash, they were enveloped, light surrounding them, wrapping them in warmth and love. Emma, Mark, and Sarah stood together, facing the brilliance, knowing the darkness had been defeated this time. When the light retreated, they found themselves back on the familiar woodland path, the eerie atmosphere of the woods now peaceful. The oppressive weight had vanished. The sign that had once warned, "No one ever leaves," now crumbled at their feet into nothingness. Emma turned to her friends, breaths heavy but hearts lighter. "We did it," Mark whispered, disbelief mingling with relief. "We actually did it." "We're free," Sarah added, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears, gratitude radiating. "All of us." They stood there, united and alive, surrounded by the rustle of leaves and the warmth of the sun filtering down through branches. Together, they would carry their experience, not as burdens, but as badges of courage. "Yet, we have to remember the souls we saved," Emma said softly, her heart swelling with hope. "They are free because we chose to stand against the darkness." They shared a quiet moment of understanding, their connection forged stronger in the battle they had faced. The woods held secrets still, but they were no longer afraid. And as they turned down the path, walking towards the light, they finally stepped into a world unshackled from fear. There would be new adventures on the horizon, but this time, they would face them together, united, fearless, and forever changed. As they walked on, a gentle whisper of wind passed through the trees, carrying a promise of remembrance and perhaps a new story, waiting to be told. You need to subscribe now, so you never miss another pulse-pounding journey like this one. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and bring more creepy tales to light. And flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about what you just witnessed. Let us hear what you think. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with 5 friends who love a good thrill. Your support is what brings these stories to life.